The water shimmered blue in the afternoon sun as Marcus stepped onto his own deck, towel in hand. He'd worked 3 jobs to buy this house, this pool, this slice of paradise. But Karen Whitmore stood blocking his path, her phone already dialing. 911, her voice sharp as broken glass. There's a black man trying to break into our community pool. Marcus felt his world tilt as the lie left her lips. She knew exactly who he was. She knew this was his backyard. And in 20 minutes, when the police arrived laughing at Karen's humiliation, Marcus would discover something that would change everything he thought. Marcus Chun Williams had always been proud of his hands. Strong, calloused from years of construction. Work, gentle enough to braid his daughter's hair, steady enough to thread a needle when his wife Diane needed help with her quilting. Today, those same hands trembled slightly as he gripped the edge of his kitchen counter, staring out the window at the sparkling blue rectangle that had cost him everything he'd saved for the past 5 years. The pool installation had been completed just last week. The concrete still smelled fresh, the tile work gleaming like scattered jewels in the California sun. Diane had already picked out the patio furniture, sleek, modern pieces that would arrive tomorrow. Their 8-year-old daughter Zoe had been counting down the days until her first swim, practicing her butterfly stroke in the community center pool across town. "Daddy, can we swim now, please?" Zoe bounced on her toes beside him, her new purple swimsuit already on, goggles perched on her forehead like a crown. Marcus smiled, ruffling her dark curls. "Let me just check the chemical levels one more time. Baby girl, safety first." He'd been obsessive about the pool maintenance, reading every manual twice, watching YouTube videos until Diane teased him about becoming a pool expert overnight. But this wasn't just about having a pool, this was about belonging, about proving that a black man who'd grown up in foster care could build something beautiful for his family in Willowbrook Estates, one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in Orange County. The doorbell rang. "I'll get it." Zoe raced toward the front door, but Marcus caught her gently by the shoulders. "Hold on, sweetheart. Let Daddy see who it is first." Through the peephole, he saw a woman he recognized but had never formally met. Karen Whitmore, from 3 houses down, blonde, perfectly put together even at 2 in the afternoon, with the kind of smile that never quite reached her eyes. She'd moved in about 6 months ago, around the time Marcus had started the pool project. He'd waved to her a few times while jogging, but she'd always looked through him as if he were invisible. Marcus opened the door, Zoe peeking out from behind his legs. "Hi there," he said, keeping his voice friendly. "I'm Marcus. I don't think we've officially met." Karen's smile was razor thin. "Oh, I know exactly who you are." Her eyes flicked to Zoe, then back to Marcus. "We need to talk about your ... project." Something cold settled in Marcus's stomach. "My project, the pool." She said it like it was a dirty word. "I've been meaning to speak with you about it for weeks, but I wanted to give you a chance to do the right thing on your own." Marcus felt Zoe's small hand slip into his. "I'm not sure I understand. Is there a problem with the installation? We got all the proper permits, followed every. It's not about permits." Karen stepped closer, and Marcus caught a whiff of expensive perfume, mixed with something sharper, anger maybe, or fear. "It's about property values. It's about maintaining the character of this neighborhood." The character, Marcus's voice, stayed level, but his grip on Zoe's hand tightened slightly. "Daddy?" Zoe whispered. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, baby. Why don't you go inside and get your water wings ready? We'll swim in just a few minutes." Zoe hesitated, her instincts picking up on the tension crackling between the adults. But she nodded and skipped back toward the kitchen, leaving Marcus alone with Karen on his doorstep. "Look," Marcus said, "if you have concerns about the pool construction affecting your property somehow, we can discuss it. But I'm not sure what." "You mean about character? Don't play dumb with me." Karen's mask slipped, revealing something ugly underneath. "This is a family neighborhood, a quiet neighborhood. We don't need activities that are going to bring in crowds, loud music, parties." Marcus stared at her. "Activities? It's a backyard pool for my family. Today, it's your family. Tomorrow, it's your friends, their friends, their friends' friends." Property values in Willowbrook have increased by 30% in the last 2 years, precisely because we've maintained certain standards. The words hit Marcus like physical blows. He'd heard variations of this conversation before, not often, not directly, but enough to recognize the coded language, the careful way she avoided saying exactly what she meant while making her meaning crystal clear. "I need to get back to my daughter," he said quietly. "I'm not finished." Karen planted herself more firmly in his doorway. "I've spoken to several other homeowners, and we're all in agreement that pool needs to go." "That pool," Marcus said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper, "is on my property, that I own, that I pay taxes on. Your property is part of this community, and this community has standards." "What standards, exactly?" The question came out harder than Marcus intended. Karen's eyes glittered. "I think you know." For a moment, they stared at each other in silence. Marcus could hear Zoe splashing in the bathroom, probably filling up water balloons in the tub. He could hear the neighbor's lawnmower in the distance, the normal sounds of a Saturday afternoon in suburbia. Normal for everyone except him, apparently. "Get off my property," Marcus said. "Excuse me, you heard me. Get off my property now." Karen's face flushed red. "How dare you speak to me that way? I came here to have a civilized conversation, and you're being hostile and aggressive." "I'm being aggressive?" Marcus almost laughed. "You came to my house uninvited to tell me I can't have a pool in my own backyard because it might attract the wrong kind of people, and I'm the one being aggressive. I never said anything about you didn't have to." Marcus stepped back and started to close the door. "We're done here." Karen jammed her foot in the doorway. "We are not done. If you won't listen to reason, then maybe you'll listen to the HOA or the city. I'm sure they'd be very interested to know about all the noise ordinances. You'll be violating all the parking issues, all that there is no HOA in this neighborhood." Marcus's voice was deadly calm. "I checked before I bought the house, and there are no noise ordinances about backyard pools. I checked that too." "Well," Karen's smile returned, sharp as a blade. "We'll just have to see about that, won't we?" She pulled her foot back, and Marcus closed the door firmly, turning the deadbolt with a click that seemed to echo through the house. Daddy Zoe appeared in the hallway, water wings inflated and ready, her face scrunched with concern. "Who was that lady? Why did she sound mad?" Marcus knelt down to Zoe's level, smoothing her worried expression with his thumb. "Just a neighbor, sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups disagree about silly things, but we can still swim, right? You promised." Marcus looked toward the sliding glass door that led to their backyard, to the pool that had cost him $50,000 and 6 months of overtime shifts, to the dream he'd built with his own 2 hands. "Yeah, baby girl, we can still swim." But as he helped Zoe into the pool 20 minutes later, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. He'd grown up in neighborhoods where people like Karen didn't bother with coded language or property value arguments. They were more direct about their hatred. In some ways, he thought, that had been easier to navigate. This polite suburban racism wrapped in concern for the community felt more dangerous somehow, more insidious. Zoe's delighted shriek as she jumped into the deep end pulled him back to the moment. Whatever Karen Whitmore was planning, whatever battle she thought she was fighting, it could wait. Right now, his daughter was swimming in their pool, in their backyard, in their home. Marcus dove in after her, the cool water washing away the tension in his shoulders, the anger in his chest, at least for now. He didn't notice Karen watching from her kitchen window, phone pressed to her ear, talking rapidly to someone on the other end. He didn't see her taking photos through the fence slats, her face twisted with determination. But he would, soon enough. The first shot in what Karen Whitmore considered a war had already been fired. She'd come to his door, offering him a chance. To surrender gracefully, he'd chosen to fight instead. That, she thought, as she scrolled through her contacts looking for the right city official to call, was his first mistake. It wouldn't be his last. The phone calls started at 7 a.m. Monday morning. Marcus was in the middle of his pre-work routine coffee brewing. Lunch packed, Zoe's backpack checked twice for homework when his cell phone buzzed with an unknown number. "This is Janet Morrison from Orange County Code Enforcement. We've received a complaint about an unpermitted pool installation at your residence." Marcus nearly dropped his coffee mug. "I'm sorry, what? All my permits are in order." "I have the documentation, sir. We're required to investigate all complaints. I'll need to schedule an inspection for this week, but I already passed inspection. The pool was signed off on last Friday." A pause. I'm showing a complaint filed Saturday evening regarding potential safety violations and improper setback measurements. Can you be available Wednesday at 10 a.m.? Marcus closed his eyes, seeing Karen's triumphant smile in his mind. I'll be there. The second call came 20 minutes later, just as he was dropping Zoe off at school. Daddy, you look worried, Zoe said, unbuckling her seatbelt in the school parking lot. Just work stuff, sweetheart. Have a good day, okay? Remember, Mommy's picking you up today. Can we swim when I get home? Marcus forced a smile. We'll see. The call was from the city planning department. Another complaint, this time about potential drainage issues that could affect neighboring properties. Marcus found himself promising to be available for yet another inspection, his jaw clenching as he listened to the bureaucratic language that barely concealed someone's determination to find fault with his perfectly legal pool. By the time he got to the construction site where he was foreman, his phone had buzzed with 3 more calls: the fire department about emergency vehicle access, the environmental services department about runoff concerns, and something called the community standards office that Marcus was pretty sure didn't exist a week ago. Boss, you look like someone ran over your dog, said Tommy Reyes, his lead electrician, and the closest thing Marcus had to a best friend on the crew. Marcus showed him the list of callback numbers he'd scribbled on a piece of paper. Someone's trying to bury me in red tape, Tommy whistled low. Damn, man, what did you do? Build a pool in the mayor's backyard? Built one in my own backyard. Apparently, that was my mistake. The workday dragged. Marcus found himself checking his phone, obsessively, waiting for the next call, the next complaint, the next manufactured crisis. By lunch, he'd counted 7 different city departments that had somehow developed urgent concerns about his pool. When he got home that evening, Diane was waiting for him with a stack of papers and a grim expression. How many? He asked. 12, she said quietly. 12 different agencies have sent us notices about various concerns regarding our pool. Marcus, some of these departments I've never even heard of. Zoe bounded into the room, still in her school clothes. Daddy, can we swim now? I practiced my backstroke and pay today. Marcus knelt down, his heart breaking a little at her excitement. Not today, baby girl. Daddy has to. Fix some paperwork first. Tomorrow, maybe tomorrow. After Zoe went to her room to play, Marcus and Diane spread the notices across their kitchen table. Environmental impact assessment required. Soil composition analysis needed. Structural engineering review requested. Landscape modification permit pending approval. This is insane, Diane said, her voice tight with controlled anger. Half of these aren't even real requirements for residential pools. Karen Whitmore made some calls, Marcus said. Karen from down the street, the blonde woman who moved in last year? Marcus told her about Saturday's confrontation, watching his wife's face cycle through disbelief, anger, and finally, a kind of weary recognition. Oh, honey, Diane said softly. I was hoping we'd left this behind when we moved here. They'd met at UCLA, both first-generation college students determined to build something better than what they'd grown up with. Diane's parents had immigrated from El Salvador when she was 3. Marcus had aged out of foster care at 18 with nothing but a high school diploma and an acceptance letter he'd almost thrown away because he couldn't afford tuition. They'd worked, struggled, scraped together enough for a tiny apartment, then a small house, then finally this their dream home in a neighborhood where their daughter could walk to school and they could have barbecues in their backyard and maybe, just maybe, belong. We're not going anywhere, Marcus said firmly. This is our home. I know, but Marcus, this could get expensive. Legal fees, compliance costs for all these fake inspections, then we fight smart. Marcus pulled out his laptop. I'm going to document everything. Every call, every notice, every requirement. If someone's orchestrating this harassment campaign, there's going to be a paper trail. He spent the next 3 hours on the phone with city departments, taking notes, asking questions, recording conversations when legally allowed. A pattern emerged quickly. Every single complaint had been filed by a concerned neighbor who wished to remain anonymous. Every single department had received their complaint within hours of each other. Between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. on Saturday night, someone had been very busy after their conversation. Tuesday brought a new escalation. Marcus was replacing a breaker panel when his phone rang with a number he recognized Owi's school. "Mr. Williams, this is Principal Martinez. I'm calling because we've received some unusual inquiries about Zoe today." Marcus's blood went cold. "What kind of inquiries?" "A woman called this morning claiming to be from Child Protective Services, asking about Zoe's attendance, her behavior, whether we'd noticed any signs of instability at home." CPS Marcus's voice came out strangled. "Someone called my daughter's school pretending to be CPS. When we asked for her badge number and supervisor information, she hung up." "Mr. Williams, I want you to know that Zoe is a model student, and we have no concerns about her home life whatsoever. But I thought you should be aware that someone is ... fishing." Marcus made it through the rest of the workday on autopilot, his mind racing. Going after him was one thing. Going after his pool, his permits, his property, that was warfare. But it was warfare he could understand. But involving his daughter's school, that crossed a line he hadn't even known existed. When he got home, he found Diane sitting on their back patio, staring at the pool. Her face was streaked with tears. What happened? He sat beside her, pulling her close. "I came home early to wait for the fire department inspector," she said. "He never showed up, but Karen did." Marcus's muscles tensed. What did she want? She didn't come to the front door this time. She came through the back gate. Said she was just checking to make sure everything was up to code back here. She came into our backyard. Without permission. I found her taking pictures of the pool equipment, the fence line, everything. When I asked her what she was doing, she said she was documenting safety hazards for her upcoming meeting with the city council. Her meeting with the city council. Diane nodded, fresh tears spilling over. "Marcus, she's not just filing complaints, she's organizing something bigger. She mentioned other homeowners, a petition, a formal presentation to get our pool declared a public nuisance." They sat in silence for a moment, watching the late afternoon light dance across the water that had once represented everything they'd worked for. "There's more," Diane said quietly. She made a comment about how unfortunate it would be if CPS had to get involved because of unsafe conditions affecting a minor child. Marcus stood up so fast his chair nearly tipped over. "She threatened Zoe, not directly, but Marcus, she knows about the school call." She smiled when she said it. For the first time since this nightmare began, Marcus felt something darker than anger settle in his chest. He'd been willing to fight for his property, his rights, his place in this neighborhood. But his daughter, his 8-year-old daughter who just wanted to swim in her own backyard. That was a different kind of war entirely. "Get Zoe ready," he said, heading for the house. "Where are we going?" "To see Karen. It's time we had a real conversation." But when they drove past Karen's house 10 minutes later, her driveway was full of cars. Through the front window, Marcus could see a living room packed with people, many of whom he recognized as neighbors. Karen stood at the front of the room, pointing to what looked like a presentation board covered with photos. Photos of his pool, his backyard, his home. "Oh my God," Diane whispered. "How many people has she recruited?" Marcus counted at least 15 neighbors crammed into Karen's living room, all of them nodding along as she spoke. He recognized the Hendersons from next door, the Patels from across the street, even Mrs. Chen, the elderly woman who'd always been so sweet to Zoe. "Daddy, why are all those people looking at pictures of our pool?" Zoe asked from the back seat. Marcus met his daughter's confused eyes in the rearview mirror. "How did you explain to an 8-year-old that some people would rather destroy her happiness than accept her family's right to exist in their neighborhood?" "I don't know, baby girl," he said, "but we're going to find out." As they drove home, Marcus's phone rang one more time. The caller ID showed a number he didn't recognize, but the voice was familiar. "Mr. Williams, this is Officer Janet Chen with the Orange County Sheriff's Department. We've received a report about a possible code violation at your residence that may require police intervention." Marcus didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat at his kitchen table with his laptop, a legal pad, impressed a private investigator. Karen Elizabeth Whitmore, age 42, divorced, worked in pharmaceutical sales. Moved to Willowbrook Estates 8 months ago after her divorce was finalized. No children, previous address, Huntington Beach, where she'd been involved in 3 separate HOA disputes, including one that resulted in a restraining order filed by her former neighbor. Marcus had also discovered something interesting. Karen didn't just live 3 houses down. She lived in the rental property owned by Henderson Development, the same company that had originally wanted to buy Marcus's lot before he outbid them 2 years ago. The pieces were starting to form a picture. At 7 a.m., Marcus called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. He had bigger priorities today. "Daddy, are you really sick?" Zoe asked over breakfast, studying his face with the acute perception only children possessed. "I'm fighting a different kind of sickness, sweetheart," Marcus said, which was true enough. After Diane left to take Zoe to school, Marcus made his first call of the day. Not to a lawyer, not to the city, but to his old college roommate, Derek, who now worked as an investigative journalist for the Orange County Register. "Marcus, man, it's been forever. How's the suburban dream treating you? That's actually why I'm calling. Derek, what do you know about Henderson Development? Those vultures. They've been buying up property all over North County, flipping houses, pushing out longtime residents." "Why?" Marcus explained the situation, watching Derek's reporter instincts kick in even over the phone. "Holy shit, Marcus. This isn't just neighbor drama. This sounds like organized harassment designed to force you to sell. Henderson's been trying to buy up your entire street for months. Can you prove that? Give me until this afternoon." Marcus's second call was to Tommy Reyes. "Boss, you sure you want to go this route?" Tommy asked after Marcus explained his plan. "It sounds like you're about to poke a hornet's nest." "The hornets already came for me, Tommy. Now I'm going after the nest." By noon, Marcus had assembled a team. Derek was digging into Henderson Development's business practices. Tommy was reaching out to other contractors who'd worked in Willowbrook Estates. 2 officers, one Marcus recognized as Officer Janet Chen from the phone call, the other a younger white officer whose nameplate read Martinez. They were professional, polite, and clearly uncomfortable. "Mr. Williams, we're here about the complaints filed regarding your pool installation," Officer Chen said. "Multiple residents have expressed concerns about code violations and public safety issues." "Of course," Marcus said. "Would you like to see my permits? All inspections passed, everything's up to code." He led them to the backyard, where the pool sparkled innocently in the afternoon sun. Officer Martinez walked the perimeter, checking the fence height, the gate latches, the equipment, housing. Officer Chen reviewed Marcus's documentation with the thoroughness of someone who knew exactly how ridiculous this call was. "Mr. Williams," she said quietly, "between you and me, this pool is probably the safest installation I've seen in 10 years. Everything's not just up to code, it's above and beyond requirements." "Then why are you here?" "Because we have to respond to complaints. But we also have to file accurate reports." 20 minutes later, both officers had completed their inspection. No violations found, no safety hazards identified, no basis for enforcement action. Marcus walked them to their patrol car, where Officer Martinez paused. Different neighborhoods, same tactics. He handed Marcus a business card. "If this escalates beyond nuisance complaints, call me directly." After the police left, Marcus stood in his driveway for a moment, watching Karen's front door. See her silhouette in the window, phone pressed to her ear. His own phone rang. They've used a network of residence renters and properties they own to file harassment complaints designed to force sales. Marcus felt a cold fury settle in his chest. "How many families?" "7 that I can confirm. 3 sold and moved. 2 are currently fighting in court. 1 family's been dealing with this shit for over a year, and Karen lives in a Henderson. Renthal gets a monthly stipend for community improvement activities. Marcus, she's literally being paid to harass you. Not in his living room, not with neighbors who'd already chosen sides, but in the conference room at Tommy's Union Hall, neighborhoods where Henderson Development had been active. Maria Santos, whose family had been harassed out of their home 6 months ago. James Park, still fighting code enforcement battles that had cost him $15,000 in legal fees. Dr. Patricia Williams, no relation, whose medical practice had been subjected to anonymous complaints to the state licensing board after she refused to sell her corner lot. "They have a playbook," Dr. Williams explained, spreading documents across the conference table. "Anonymous complaints to multiple agencies. Simultaneous enforcement actions designed to overwhelm you financially. Community pressure campaigns to isolate you socially. The goal isn't actually to win in court," added James Park. "It's to make your life so miserable, so expensive, so stressful that you give up and sell." Marcus looked around the room at the faces of people who'd been through what he was experiencing. Good people, hard-working families who'd committed the crime of success while being the wrong color in the wrong neighborhood. "So what do we do?" he asked. "We document everything," Maria said. "Every call, every complaint, every interaction. And we fight back," Dr. Williams added. "They're counting on us being isolated, dealing with this alone. But we're not alone." Over the next 2 hours, they shared information, strategies, resources. Marcus learned about Fair Housing Act violations, about patterns of discrimination that could trigger federal investigations, about lawyers who specialized in exactly this type of case. But more importantly, he learned he wasn't crazy. By the time Marcus got home, it was almost midnight. Diane was waiting up, curled on the couch with a cup of tea and worry lines creasing her forehead. "How bad is it?" she asked. "Bad, but not hopeless." Marcus sat beside her, pulling her close. "Diane, we're not the first family they've targeted. And if we play this right, we might be the last." He told her about Derek's investigation, about the meeting at the Union Hall, about the civil rights case they were building. He watched hope and determination replace the fear in her eyes. "What do we need to do?" Marcus smiled, grimly, the kind that gets people arrested. They didn't have to wait long. Thursday morning brought a new escalation. They told my supervisor I was under investigation for child endangerment and that my employment might be affecting an ongoing CPS case. Jesus Christ, did they believe it? My supervisor knows me, so no. But Marcus, they're not just coming after our home anymore. They're coming after our jobs, our reputations, everything. Marcus was still processing this when his phone rang. Again, this time it was Zoe's school. "Mr. Williams, this is Principal Martinez again. I'm calling because we've had another incident. A woman matching the description of the person who called Tuesday showed up at our school this morning claiming to be conducting a welfare check on Zoe." Marcus's vision went red around the edges. "Someone came to my daughter's school. Security stopped her at the front office when she couldn't provide proper identification. She became belligerent and had to be escorted off campus. We've filed a police report, but I wanted you to know immediately." Marcus was already reaching for his car keys. "Is Zoe okay?" "She's fine. She doesn't know anything happened. But Mr. Williams, whoever this is, they're escalating." Marcus made it to the school in record time, his mind racing through possibilities, each one worse than the last. Someone had come to his daughter's school. Someone had tried to get access to his 8-year-old child. The line had been crossed. Principal Martinez showed him the security footage of a blonde woman in expensive clothes arguing with the front desk staff, gesturing angrily when they asked for. Marcus didn't call the police immediately. Instead, he made a different call first. "Derek, it's Marcus. How fast can you get to my house with a camera crew? Give me 20 minutes. What's happening? Karen just handed us everything we need to destroy her in Henderson Development, but I want it documented when the police arrest her." By the time Officer Martinez arrived, Marcus had called him directly. Using the card he'd been given, Rick was set up across the street with a cameraman and a reporter from Channel 7 News who'd been following Derek's investigation into Henderson Development. "Mr. Williams," Officer Martinez said, reviewing the security footage on Marcus's laptop, "this is clear-cut vandalism, trespassing, and destruction of property. We're talking about multiple felonies here." "There's more," Marcus said, showing him the school security footage Principal Martinez had provided. "She attempted to gain unauthorized access to my daughter's school using false pretenses." Officer Martinez's expression darkened. "That's attempted child endangerment, maybe attempted kidnapping depending on what the DA wants to charge. And this," Marcus handed him a thick folder compiled by his private investigator. "Evidence of a systematic harassment campaign coordinated with Henderson Development to force minority families to sell their homes." Officer Martinez whistled low as he flipped through bank records, showing payments from Henderson to Karen complaint forms. With identical language filed against 7 different families, rental agreements tying Karen to Henderson properties. "Mr. Williams, this isn't just neighbor drama anymore. This is organized conspiracy, possibly RICO violations." "I need to call the FBI, actually," said a new voice from Marcus's front door. "They're already here. Special Agent Sarah Kim." Civil Rights Division had been investigating Henderson development for 6 months based on complaints from families in 3 different counties. Marcus's case was the missing piece that tied everything together. Mr. Whitmore, Ms. Whitmore is going to have some very difficult questions to answer, Agent Kim said, reviewing the evidence Marcus had compiled, as is Henderson Development's entire executive team. The arrest happened at 6:47 p.m., just as the evening news crews were going live. Karen answered her door expecting to see another neighbor ready to join her crusade against the problem family. Down the street, instead, she found Officer Martinez, Agent Kim, and a warrant for her arrest on charges of vandalism, trespassing, filing false police reports, attempted child endangerment, and conspiracy to violate civil rights. "This is ridiculous," Karen shrieked as the handcuffs clicked into place. "I haven't done anything wrong. I was trying to protect this neighborhood from—" "Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent," Officer Martinez said calmly. "I strongly suggest you use it." But Karen couldn't stop talking. "Do you know who I am? Do you know who I work for?" Henderson Development has lawyers. Real lawyers. Not like whatever public defender this man probably used to buy his house. Agent Kim exchanged a look with Officer Martinez. "Ma'am, did you just admit to working for Henderson Development in connection with this harassment campaign?" "I know. Karen's face went white as she realized what she'd said. "Keep talking," Officer Martinez said dryly. "You're making our case stronger every word." As they loaded Karen into the patrol car, Marcus stood on his front porch with Diane and Zoe, watching 3 months of hell finally come to an end. Derek's cameraman captured everything: Karen's meltdown, her admission of working with Henderson, the FBI agent explaining the federal charges, but the moment that would go viral, the moment that would be replayed on social media for weeks, came when Karen looked directly at the news cameras and screamed, "This is America. I have rights. I shouldn't have to live next to these people. They don't belong here." Officer Martinez, clearly visible in the shot, started laughing. Not a cruel laugh, not a mocking laugh, but the kind of genuine amusement that comes from seeing someone completely destroy themselves with their own stupidity. "Lady," he said, loud enough for the cameras to pick up, "the only person who doesn't belong here is you, and you're about to not belong in a federal prison." Agent Kim joined the laughter. "In all my years investigating civil rights violations, I've never had a defendant confess on live television while being arrested. Even Derek's cameraman was grinning behind his equipment. The footage would make national news within hours. #Pulkerin would trend on Twitter for 3 days. Legal experts would use Karen's arrest as a textbook example of how not to commit federal crimes. But for Marcus, the best part came later that evening, after the police and FBI had left, after the news crews had packed up, after the last curious neighbor had retreated to their house. Marcus found himself alone in his backyard, staring at the damaged pool. The bleach had ruined the water and stained some of the tile, but the structure was sound. The equipment could be replaced. Within a week, they'd be swimming again. His phone buzzed with a text from Tommy. "Boss, you see the news? Henderson Developments. Stock dropped 40% in after-hours trading. FBI raided their offices an hour ago." Another text, this one from Dr. Williams. "Federal prosecutors want to meet with all of us next week. They're filing civil rights charges against the entire Henderson network." And then, unexpectedly, a knock at his front door. Marcus opened it to find Mrs. Chen, the elderly neighbor he'd seen at Karen's meeting 2 nights ago. She looked embarrassed. "And tired, Mr. Williams. I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "That woman, ... she told us things. Lies about you and your family. She made it sound like you were trying to turn our neighborhood into some kind of, I don't know, party house." "Mrs. Chen, you don't need to." "Yes, I do." She straightened her shoulders with dignity. "I let fear make me stupid. My own family came to this country with nothing, built a good life through hard work, just like you. I should have known better." She handed him a plate covered with aluminum foil. "My granddaughter made cookies. She wanted to apologize, too. For believing lies about your little girl." Over the next hour, 3 more neighbors came to his door. The Patels from across the street, the Hendersons from next door. Even the young couple from the corner house he'd never spoken to. Them apologetic, all of them embarrassed. all of them realizing they'd been manipulated into turning against a neighbor who'd done nothing wrong. "She made it sound like you were planning some kind of business," Mr. Henderson explained. "Pool parties for hire, event hosting, things that would bring strangers into the neighborhood." "All I wanted was a pool for my daughter," Marcus said. "We know that now," Mrs. Patel said. "We should have known it then." By the time the last neighbor left, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced in months: peace. 2 weeks later, Karen Whitmore pled guilty to federal civil rights violations: vandalism, filing false police reports, and conspiracy charges. She was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison and ordered to pay restitution to Marcus and 6 other families for damages and legal fees. Henderson Development faced a federal civil rights lawsuit that resulted in a $15 million settlement and a consent decree requiring them to undergo fair housing training and submit to federal oversight. For 5 years, 3 Henderson executives, including the CEO, were charged with conspiracy to violate civil rights, pled guilty, and received prison sentences. The third went to trial and was convicted on all counts. Derek's investigative series won a Pulitzer Prize for exposing systematic housing discrimination in Orange County. But the real victory came on a Saturday morning in July, exactly 4 months after Karen's first visit to Marcus's door. "Teddy, watch this," Zoe called out, standing on the diving board of their newly restored pool. Marcus looked up from the pool maintenance kit he'd become something of an expert over the past few months to watch his daughter execute a perfect cannonball that soaked him from head to toe. "Beautiful form, baby girl," he laughed, wiping water from his eyes. Diane emerged from the house carrying a tray of lemonade and sandwiches, wearing the new bikini she'd bought to celebrate the end of their legal troubles. "Pool party time?" she asked. "Pool party time," Marcos confirmed. As if summoned by the magic words, the back gate opened and Tommy's family poured through, followed by Derek and his wife, then Dr. Williams and her kids, then half the families from the Union Hall, meeting who'd become genuine friends through their shared struggle. Within an hour, Marcus's backyard was full of children splashing, adults laughing, music playing softly from the outdoor speakers he'd finally installed. Exactly the kind of scene Karen Whitmore had claimed to fear. Except it wasn't threatening, or dangerous, or disruptive. It was just a family celebrating with their friends in their own backyard, in their own home, in their own neighborhood where they belonged. Mrs. Chen appeared at the back gate carrying a covered dish and wearing a sun hat, her granddaughter bouncing beside her. "Room for 2 more?" she asked. "Always," Marcus said, meaning it. As the afternoon wore on, as his pool filled with children of every color and background, as his backyard filled with the sound of joy and community and belonging, Marcus thought about Karen Whitmore sitting in her federal prison cell. He didn't feel sorry for her. She'd made her choices, revealed her true character, destroyed her own life with her hatred. But he did feel